my essay titled Seeking Stillness. When all is calm in my surroundings, I can hear my truest self. I know that the voice I need to listen to is the one that is buried deep inside, behind society's constructs and beyond the limiting beliefs that have been passed on to me through generations and by my peers. When I am out here, in these wild places, beside Snowdonia's tranquil lakes, beneath majestic mountains, with the branches of the pirouetting silver birch trees wrapping themselves around my weary body, my spirit feels a certain peace, and the voice that I seek is free to speak. Whenever I am beside silent waters like this, I always notice that first breath of air, filling my lungs and reinvigorating me. Out here, it becomes so much clearer to me how much of a necessity nature's therapy is. Only when I come out and sense the stillness of these waters do I realize that I haven't been myself for so long. My thoughts become lighter, my body is refreshed, and my breathing becomes so much clearer. My anxieties settle, and all my worries begin to disappear. I feel no fear. I think, so this is how it really feels to be a human being. Before humans decided to build four walls around themselves and call it a home, our ancestors might have woken up beneath these silver birch trees every morning. Maybe they were able to bathe in the waters when they woke, to nourish their souls and cleanse their minds. They may have even gathered logs from a dying tree to stoke their fire, fished the waters and cooked catch of the day, before dancing together full-bellied, laughing, socializing and staring out into the starry sky to dream and tell stories of adventure to their families. They certainly wouldn't have been refreshing their social media feeds in isolation to subconsciously compare their lives with a family that lives halfway around the world. We are incredibly disconnected from nature in this modern, ever-increasing digital world. Far too many people would rather watch others do the exploring for them through a screen whilst they hide away in the comfort and safety of their own four walls. To experience these moments through a digital screen is not enough. It is not the same as being out there in person and in spirit. To go on a journey into the unknown, to forget who we think we are for a while, to reflect, to give ourselves the space and opportunity to become something new, to build new neural pathways in our brain. There really is no adequate substitute. We all belong out here in these wild places, and we need to make a commitment to seek them out more often for times of healing and respite during these delicate and fragile times for humanity. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a piece of writing from an essay titled Seeking Stillness that will feature alongside Silent Waters in my exhibition and give greater context around this piece of work, but also my entire body of photography that will be on display in the old church that is Plas Glyn y Weddw. If you're interested in more of my writing and the full essay, then it can be found in my upcoming photo book titled Finding Light, which is available over on my website and also shares the same name as the exhibition at Plas Glyn y Weddw, which I'm very excited to announce that the book will be on display at the exhibition in a sample form. The essay that features alongside this photograph was actually produced 18 months after I created this photograph and a small series of others from this morning. It was a special morning, and one that I would very unlikely experience again. I'd actually turned up to the lake after spending the night in Snowdonia in my car, in a car park around the corner from here. And I'd walked to the location with some high expectations. I'd checked the weather forecast the night before, and it was given some promise of fog in the area. So I'd started to dream up and visualize some of the photographs that might be possible in this area, given that I'd been there a couple of times already to scout it out and, you know, to scope out the environment. So my mind was full with potential photographs and I had high hopes. So when I turned up to the lake, there was nothing. It was grey, it was bleak, and it was pretty miserable, to say the least. For the first hour and a half, nothing happened. It was plain Jane, grey and boring, which if you're a photographer and you're watching this, you probably know that then they don't make the best conditions for photographs. So I'd gone about my process of trying to connect in the best way that I could, although I had one part of my brain on what might have been as I was kind of walking around the landscape and, you know, just trying to soak it all in the best that I could. So yeah, I guess in some ways I was struggling to be truly present with one part of my mind set on something else, and perhaps some feelings of ungratefulness and maybe a little bit of anger towards Mother Nature for not giving me what I wanted. You know, I wanted this fog and beautiful light, and it wasn't to be. So yeah, I was kind of taught a lesson really, and you know, we can't always have what we want. You know, sometimes we've got to make do with the conditions that we're given and enjoy them for what they are. But as I put my bag over my shoulder and turned around for one last look at the lake, at the mouth of the lake, down at the farthest end, it was as though someone had just blown this wave of fog in from the mountains, and the fog smothered the lake, and of course my heart starts beating and all of my senses are heightened. You know, my eyes were tuning into the surroundings and to the depth that was being created by the fog that was weaving in and out of the trees, and that was it. I had 10 or 15 minutes of, well, absolute immersion, full immersion into the landscape. And I talk passionately in my presentations about this photograph and the experience that came alongside with this, because for those 10 minutes, I mean, it felt like a lifetime. It was only 10 minutes, but man, I was so present and I was so in the moment, and all of my senses were so engaged that it was very difficult for my mind to be anywhere else. I'd gone from perhaps some overthinking and being maybe stuck in my mind to all of a sudden being completely immersed in the landscape and in my own state of flow, where my mind could not be anywhere else but on my art. So I had 10 or 15 minutes running around like a lunatic, creating 5 or 6 different compositions, and this was one of the final pieces that I created, where I was on the way back after exhausting all of the options kind of at the back end of the lake there, which is what I had my heart set on to start with. And as I'm walking back up the lane, I take one look over my shoulder and I can see this composition made possible. So I equipped my telephoto and planted my tripod kind of on the edge of the bank and zoomed in, and yeah, some absolute magic really happened. It was one of those kind of spontaneous, impulsive, reactive photographs that couldn't have been preconceived, it couldn't have been pre-planned, because it was a completely intuitive photograph where I'm just reacting to what was there before me. So, you know, I had no expectations for this photo, and yeah, this is what the result of being dialed into my heart and dialed into my intuition was. So I talked earlier a little bit about my youth, my younger years, my childhood years, in which, yeah, there was a lot of chaos and turbulence and destruction in the home environment. You know, on a few occasions I remember walking down the stairs with my sister first thing in the morning, and it was as though a bomb had gone off in the downstairs living room, because we opened the doors and there was picture frames and glass and ornaments just scattered across the floor. And I remember kind of tiptoeing through all of this wreckage and debris with my sister to get to wherever we wanted to go. I don't remember exactly where that was, but I just remember kind of dancing through all of this debris. So nature for me is the complete opposite of that. It's, I mean, it's still, it's silent, peaceful, it's orderly, despite often finding ourselves in chaos in woodland environments and certain areas, but nature is in perfect order. So the theme of stillness, as mentioned, comes as a result of what I experienced when I was young, and I talk quite passionately again about this topic of acceptance and embracing the hands that we're dealt. And you know, I couldn't do much about the hand that I was dealt when I was a child, but certainly have a choice to make now, you know, with what to do with my experiences and photography, creativity, creating photographs like this from, you know, the pain, the turbulence, the chaos really is the only sensible choice, because to continue that pattern of violence and abuse just would make no sense to me whatsoever. So I use all of that as my fuel to create photographs that tell a different story. And, you know, we all have the power to create our own story in this life. And my pursuit of creativity very much is about embracing that power that I have to tell my story, to make a change, and to hopefully inspire some people along the way with what I have to share. So I hope that some of these insights into silent waters throughout this video stand to serve as an inspiration in some way. And yeah, I'd love to know if you feel inspired at all by what I have to share, by the words that I share. So yeah, if you feel compelled, then leave some comments down below in the description. I'll be very grateful, as I was very grateful to receive some lovely comments on my last few videos from people, you know, that had some very authentic and beautiful things to share with me. So thank you very much for those. And yeah, maybe you'd like to come and see silent waters in a much bigger size, probably something like that, probably twice the size up and across, at the exhibition. I'm sharing, I think it's a 30 by 24 or maybe a 24 by 20 inch print of this, which will be framed beautifully by Claire at Oswestry Framing Company. Thank you, Claire, if you're watching, for the beautiful work that you do on my photographs. I'm looking forward to seeing them all up on the wall at Plas Glyn y Weddw, May the 11th until July the 6th, where silent waters and over 20 other photographs, as well as between 6 and 8 essays or excerpts from essays, a couple of poems and some quotes that will be lining the walls in a vinyl cutout to emphasize certain concepts and themes that I feel will be of the utmost importance, and things that I hope that people will take away with them when they come to visit. My research tells me that it attracts I think 120 or 140,000 visitors per year. So my calculations tell me that with it being, you know, in the peak of spring and summer, that I can expect probably over 20,000 people viewing my work in the time that it is on the walls. So I can't quite comprehend how much that is, but it's, you know, a decent sized football stadium full of people that will be looking at my photographs of silent waters and many other ones, and reading some of the things that I have to write. So it's a very, very exciting time for me in my career as an artist, and I'll be very much looking forward to meeting you, should you decide to come along. As mentioned before, all of the information will be in the link down in the description, where I'll be sharing key dates such as artist talks and presentations and other dates that I'll be in attendance. So do come along to some of those and hear me talk in person and about silent waters and other photographs, where you can ask me some questions and open my mind up in all sorts of directions. Talks and presentations tend to go off here, there and everywhere. They're always different, despite it being a similar theme every time. They go wherever they need to go. So I'll be looking forward to delivering one of those in Plas Glyn y Weddw, and as mentioned, I look forward to seeing you there.